and all the time. All right, we are about to set voyage into a new year, and not just a new year, but what? A new decade. You've done this before, right? We're all adults in here. You've all survived New Year's Eve. Do you remember 1999? Remember we thought all the power plants and water, everything was going to shut down, all that Y2K crazy. We survived that. We survived 1999 not only because of Y2K, but like Prince sang, never mind. All right, so would you like to be able to do New Year's Eve better? Would you like to be able to start 2020 better? And I'm not talking about New Year's resolutions, because I don't believe that those ever work. I saw a great meme on Facebook a couple days ago. It says, here's the gym in 2 days, and it was just like a crowd the size of Woodstock, right? Everyone's going to make all the resolutions. I'm going to quit whatever. I'm going to start whatever. I'm going to, right? I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. They don't last. I'm talking about real change. Would you like to start this new year and make a real change? January, a month named after, I guess it's a Greek god, I don't know, some Near Eastern god, Janus. And the images of Janus are two faces, one facing forward, one facing backwards. So you could go into 2020 and keep thinking about what a terrible year 2019 was. It was a rough year, for many of us. A lot of us had a lot of emotion, a lot of things that we'd like to just leave behind. So you could go in the future and keep looking back, or you could continue to move. So if you're ready for real change, here's where you start. Most of us here like to be the hero of the story. You like to be the helper. You like to be perceived as the person who is the source of strength, the one who is reliable, the one who is dependable. It's as if you have this infinite, inexhaustible amount of whatever it is that everyone else needs. People are dependent on you. They're looking to you. They want you to be the rock. They want you to be strong enough. And if you can be that, if you can give them what you want, guess what you'll get in return? You'll be loved. You'll be welcomed into any circle. And you will be accepted if you have all those things. And it's in that source of strength where you think you'll find your sense of worth and importance. I want you to scrap that idea. You know the paradox of a good education? You still end up working in the trades. No, the paradox of a good education, the paradox of a good education, paradox, the idea of two equal truths that seem to contradict each other. The paradox of a good education is the more you learn, the more you realize how little you know. The more education, the more information, the more your mind grows, the more you realize how little you know. That's why Socrates said that he was the wisest man on earth, because he knew that he didn't know anything at all. Similarly to this idea of a good education, similarly, and here it is, I'm just going to throw it out there, and you can pay attention to the rest, or you can just take this with you. The more vulnerable you are, the stronger you become. I'm asking the question today, why be vulnerable? Matthew's a great guitarist, excellent vocals. I imagine there was a time where he had to ask someone with the guitar, show me how to play these chords. Right?
Yes.
I cannot play an instrument to save my life. I sing really good because I can tell by the reaction I get when everyone's like, oh. I think what they're telling me is let other people shine as well, and so tone it down, I don't know. But if you want to grow as a musician, you got to say, I don't know what I'm doing. Travis, you went to a CDL school to learn how to drive a truck, right? I remember when I went to get my CDL, I was going to drive the church bus, and I thought, I've been driving my whole adult life, I don't need to study for the test. I went there were dumb questions. How many pounds of ammunition can you have on a church bus? I put down 0. 50 pounds. Who needs 50 pounds of ammunition? Can you fuel up the church bus with people in it? Well, no, of course not. Yes, you can, as long as it's not in an enclosed area. Stupid questions. I flunked. Right? So go ahead and go home and read the book, right? The more vulnerable you are, the stronger you will become. But as soon as I throw out this idea, this recommendation, this encouragement to be vulnerable, I know that some legitimate concerns are going to pop up in your mind. Won't people see me as weak? So what? Maybe you are. Won't people think less of me? Won't people talk about me on Facebook? Right? Won't people gossip about me if they know what my vulnerabilities are? If they know what my weaknesses are? Won't they talk about me behind my back? Let me tell you something that's true about life. People that want to gossip about you are going to gossip no matter what. You could be on the straight and narrow, you could be doing great, you could be victorious, there's still, and here's another thing, don't worry about trying to impress those type of people. We spend money that we don't have on things that we don't want to impress people we don't like. There's America. Don't worry about trying to impress those people. Their opinion is not the opinion that counts. I want to unpack Paul's example on vulnerability. Wendy, if you please pull Romans 17 back up. I think this example is worth considering as we bring in the new year. What do we know about Paul? Two things that we know about Paul. He has a deep Jewish heritage that he comes from. He was a Pharisee of Pharisees. He's excelling as a religious leader under Judaism. And he becomes a Christian, and he's a tent maker. He's bivocational. So he's a tent maker supporting his ministry. He travels all around the known world, helping to plant churches. So this guy who writes a lot of the New Testament, not the majority of it, he writes a lot of the New Testament, plants churches all over, should be this superhero Christian who never, ever has any flaws in his character, right? That's what you would think. Otherwise, God couldn't have used him, right? Paul's a preacher. He's a teacher. He's a mentor. He goes about, and he's never actually been to Rome. If you read the beginning of Romans, he's not been there yet, but he plans on coming to meet the church in Rome. He's a preacher, and that reminds me of three preachers who went fishing one day. And they go out and they go fishing, and they're out on the lake, and it's calm and it's peaceful. And one of the preachers says, we're always taking care of other people's problems. We're always putting fires out at church. We're always dealing with other people. But nobody ever takes, who pastors the pastor? Guys, let's just be vulnerable. Let's just share what our problems are and let's comfort each other. So the guy who brings up the idea says, I'll go first. He says, I like to cross the state line on the weekends. I like to go to that off-track horse gambling casino. And I like to bet money. And I know it's wrong. Sometimes I run a little short at the end of the month. But my wife's very understanding. And I hope one day, with your guys helping the boat, I can be better at this. The other guy says, wow, man, that's deep. He says, sometimes I take the offering plate after church and I throw it up in the air and I tell God, what you want to keep, you keep. And what comes down, I'll keep. The other guy says, whoa, that's kind of dangerous. And the third guy's there, he's not saying a word. So they let a couple minutes go by and they said, well, come on, man. We just told you what our problem is. Can't you tell us? And he said, I'm a huge gossip and I can't wait to get back to shore. All right. Paul says, I know, we all know that the law is spiritual. So he's talking primarily here about the law of Moses. The 10 Commandments and the other, well, there's 613 altogether. All the other commandments, the law that Moses gives to the people. We know that it is spiritual, right? It's delivered from God to help us be spiritual people. But I am unspiritual, right? I am sold as a slave to sin. Now, I'm not a Greek expert. I had to do it in college and then again in seminary. I know enough to be dangerous, probably. You may be thinking he's talking about something that happened in his former life. This is all written in present tense in the Greek. This isn't present tense, so this is happening now. This isn't his past. It's not in the future. It's happening as he's speaking, okay? So he's not talking about his past life. He says, I'm sold as a slave to sin. I do not understand what I do. I'm a confused person. I'm torn. There's a tug of war going on, right? What I want to do, I do not do it. I don't know if he's talking about helping old ladies across the street. I don't know if he's talking about being patient with other people. I don't know what it is that he wants to do, but he knows that there's something good he should be doing, and I'm not doing it. And he says, what I want to do, I do not do, but what I hate, I do. There's something that he's doing that he knows is not spiritual. It's a sin, and he's in the middle of it. Verse 16, if I do what I do not want to do, I agree that the law is good. As it is, it's no longer I myself who do it, but sin living in me. So he personifies the notion of sin. Sin are actions that separate us from God. Sin are things that are good that are misused. I could go through a whole litany of things. So the preacher on the boat who wrestles with the money that he throws up in here, is money good? You wouldn't be here without money, right? You have clothes on, thank you. You had something to eat, right? You have a bed to sleep in. Good. What happens, though, if I become greedy, if I fall in love with money? Paul doesn't say money is the root of all evil. Paul says what? The love of money is the root of all evil, right? So sex is good. Young people, plug your ears. Sex is good when you're married, right? Okay? You could go through the list. Sex, food, money, everything that you can think of that is a sin is something that is being misused. It's good, but it's not being used the way it's supposed to be. Paul says, I agree the law is good. I don't do what I want to do, right? Sin is inside of me. There's something that's happened. I know that the good itself does not dwell within me, that is in my sinful nature. I have the desire, by the way, in the Greek, that's flesh. Sarkikos. It's the word for your flesh and bones. I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot plant church all across the known world. Writes a big chunk of the New Testament. Called by God. Blinded for 3 days before he's baptized by Ananias, right? And starts becoming a Christian. All. I cannot carry it out. I'm being vulnerable. I'm burying my soul here. I want to do something good and I'm not able to carry it out. What I do, well, for dyslexia, this is a tough passage to read. For I do not do the good I want to do, but the evil I do not want to do. I keep on doing this. All right, next part, please. So he's making a confession here. If I do what I do not want to do, it's no longer I doing it, but the sin that's living in me. So I find this law at work. Although I want to do good, evil is right there with me. My inner being, my heart of hearts, my soul, my mind, everything about me knows I'm convicted. I delight in God's law, but I see another law at work in me, waging war against the law of my mind, making me a prisoner to the law of sin at work within me. What a wretched man I am. I am torn up about this. I'm losing sleep about this. I'm a comfort eater. Some people here, when you're upset and you don't eat, me, man, I'm bellied up to the table and I'm packing it on. So if you see me gain 15 pounds, just say, Craig, what's wrong? We know, right? I don't know if he's losing weight or gaining weight here, but he wretched. Man, who will rescue me from, my text says his body of death, but his body that is subject to death. I think the analogy is this idea. He's wanting you to feel like he's shackled to a dead corpse, which is one of the things that Romans did back then. Misbehaved. They did some really bad things, but one of them was to shackle you to a dead body until it decomposed. Thanks be to God who delivers me. So there's deliverance through Jesus Christ our Lord. Then I myself in my mind am a slave to God's law. But in my sinful nature, I'm a slave to the law of sin. If I were writing the Bible, I would not put that in there. How am I going to convince sinful people to not sin? That gives a little credibility to the scriptures, in my opinion, when things like that seem to be in contradiction are allowed in there. Why be vulnerable? I don't know if you've read the book of Romans, but there's 16 chapters, and this is right before the pivot. So things have gone from doctrine up to chapter 8 to practicing how we live the Christian faith out. Paul uses this, I think, as an opportunity for his audience to be able to be connected to him. In other words, the first thing I want to tell you is, why should you be vulnerable? It makes you more accessible to other people. When you try to come off as a super perfect Christian who never makes a mistake, people don't think you're approachable. Now, do you get up and air all of your dirty laundry? I was working with a church one time after I got fired by another church. As a college student, I got fired. How do you do that? That's a whole other story. I was in this community. They had a black church and a white church. I'd never heard of that before in my whole life. And I was working with the white church, and my professor who taught Greek was working with the black church. And every last Sunday night of the month, we did a worship service together. And my professor and I were talking, and the black church really wanted to merge with the white church. The white church was old and dying, the black church was vibrant, so good. So we're having this men's meeting, and they said, all you Harding students, all you ever want to do is merge the church. Well, we were here first. Right? They were just old, cantankerous, probably needed to close the doors. Anyway, the white church fires me. I'm working with the black church. I'm asking you the question, do you air all your dirty laundry? Well, at the altar call, the invitation, the way things worked at the black church was, everyone stood up for the first several stanzas of the invitation song, and during the last stanza, or last verse, whatever they're called, the last part of the song, if you didn't have anything to say, you sat down. If you wanted to be baptized, or rededicate yourself, or ask for prayers, you stayed standing. Everybody's standing. The last part of the song is sung. Everyone sits down, and this one lady in the back is still standing up. So my Greek professor, who's the pastor, preacher there, I'm helping out. He says, oh, well, what's going on? She points up in the crowd. She goes, I've been sleeping with Johnny for 6 months, and I think everyone needs to know it. It's wrong, and we need to stop. She's next to her husband and family. He's next to his wife and family. Do you air all your vulnerabilities? People will find you approachable when you're vulnerable. Another reason, there's something about humility that is beneficial. There's something about people who are humble. When we acknowledge our limitations, when we recognize we're vulnerable and we're humble about it, when we don't try to put ourselves above the mere mortals that are around us, the morons and the peons and those who aren't good enough, who trouble us. Right? When we're humble and we're down to earth, it makes us more relatable. So we're more accessible, we're more approachable. When we're vulnerable, people can relate to us. It's a good thing. Letting your guard down also, being vulnerable about fallibilities and weaknesses and mistakes, makes you more relatable. Nobody feels comfortable around someone who has the persona that they think they are unmistakable, that they're always right, that they never make a mistake. They're always correct, and you're stupid to disagree with them. Do you like being around people like, do you enjoy those conversations? When you're always made to feel like, Paul, I think he's making himself very relatable here. Very credible. I could talk about hypocrisy. You want me to? You know what hypocrisy means? In the Greek, hypocrite wasn't a religious term. Jesus made it a religious term. The masks that people put over their face in Greek plays, hypocritical, right? So it was just a mask. You're a play artist, you're a performer. So Jesus says you ought to be a performer, right? Let your guard down, be vulnerable. Don't pretend you're stronger than you are. Paul is not pretending to be so strong that he can never, ever, ever make a mistake. Let me finish with this. Here's a little pro tip on life for you. The same package that you got as a child that had the red cape in it that you wear is also filled with kryptonite. Life is messy. Life is complicated. Life isn't all that simple. So that same package that you get that has the red cape is filled with kryptonite, and it's out there. The whole idea that got me started on this sermon was thinking about the idea that you can't expect to get the help you don't ask for. It's hard to get help that you need if you don't ever ask for it. You have to be wise about that. You have to be selective who you open up to. But there's got to be people in your life that you can say, here's what I'm struggling with. Here's what I don't like about myself. Here's what I'd like to improve. And finally, if we feel invulnerable, the opposite of being vulnerable, right? If we feel invulnerable, then we lose sight of our dependence on God and His